Okay, hi everyone. So it's SmithyQ, SmithyQ.com, and welcome to the next installment of Smithy's Greatest Losses. And this is one that can be summed up in a single word: overconfidence. And when I first envisioned this series, this game was front and center in my mind. Because I don't know, it's been very rare for me to lose a better position than in this game, and for a very particular reason. So I'm going to go through it rather quickly, just to show the lead up. Because the final position, as interesting as it is, we can talk about that, for 30 seconds. But to really get the theme of this lesson, we need to see the whole game. So I was black in this position. I ended up playing what's known as the modern defense. And this is just kind of it's a funny thing. If you did my course on opening fundamentals on Chessable, you'll notice that this is breaking about every rule. Is I haven't castled yet. I'm not really fighting for the center. I'm making multiple pawn moves. And so, this is gonna be a scary thing. What I like about this is that it tends to be unique. It's novel. It's fresh. If you play, for example, the Queen's Gambit or the Italian game, the Royal Opens, any of those classical, they're great. But I often find that the openings, the middle games, sometimes even the end games, they all tend to be fairly similar. There might not be a huge differentiation between them. Whereas with the modern, it seems like every 10 moves, it's brand new, it's different, it's something I've never seen before for either side. And again, at the time, it was a wonderful breath of fresh air, which I really needed. My opponent ends up playing e5, attacking in the center. Now, the following isn't very accurate for either of us. Take, I come in here. And I'm really setting myself up for an e6 sacrifice, which is just terrible. Okay, so my opponent gives up a pawn, but my pawn structure is awful. My king is much weaker. And there's, you can just imagine something like knight g5 or knight d4 even coming in, where we're threatening this. The rook's going to come to the d file, where we're taking my queen. We got weakness on this long diagonal potentially, and it's just this is not a very good position for black. But fortunately, my opponent ended up playing bishop f4, and I think he just missed that I'm attacking it 3 times and he's only defending it twice. So I think he just missed this. And here's where I point out that my opponent was rated about 150 points higher than I was. So that's something to keep in mind in the back of your head. And so take, exchange, take. Let's just do one more. Rook, bishop. And so at this point, you got to think that black's pretty happy. And spoiler alert, I'm black and I am happy. Because I've got the 2 bishops, I've got an extra pawn. Okay, my king's in the center, but you know what? It's an endgame. That's fine. I want my king to be in the center. And it's really hard to complain about my position. I'm just doing great. And so he castles, bishop b7. He tries to do something on the queen side, but that's absolutely fine. Push, defend. I'm now trying to provoke a weakness. I want him to play b3, locking down the queen side, really making this long diagonal potentially very weak. Instead, he makes, in my opinion, a much worse decision, because after take, all of a sudden, we've got a passed a pawn, potentially. My rook is behind this pawn, and all I'm going to do is push that pawn all the way to glory. And yeah, and that's actually pretty much what happens in this game. I'm able to push him back, I improve my king, and now after a small series of moves here, he plays b6, that's fine, take, I move my rook, that's it, everything is fine. Again, I'm going through this quickly, I just want you to see the flow of the game, so that way you can see where my confidence came from. Is I push the pawn, he makes a nothing move, I push the pawn, he does whatever, I push the pawn, take, he goes to defend. So just look what happened. We could even compare this, from 10, what was this? 10 moves ago, where I got the bishop here, everything is fine. We can just jump ahead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here he is, 10 moves. Is that his rook is behind the pawn, my pawn is 1 move away from queening, this rook is paralyzed. After rook to d2, it's attacking this, I've got an easy route with my king to come all the way into here, or maybe over here. I'm going to win something. I'm going to push some pawns. This game is over. And it is. Black is winning at this point. And even better, it's not even easy to see how white can get any counterplay. Like, what can white do to even put a roadblock or, give me any problems at all? There's nothing here. Nothing at all. Against an opponent 150 rating points higher than me. Not bad at all. You can probably see that this is eventually going to go. So here, let's just bring the king in. I bring the rook back. That's fine. I'm trying to keep him off the d-file, right? Because if his king is stuck over here, then I might be able to invade my king. If I can get my king all the way here, I'm defending the pawn. Maybe this rook can move, or it's just things look great. So he eventually stops my king from coming in, but that's okay. I now start probing for weaknesses. All right, he pushes a pawn. Then I go here. Alrighty. I'm now going to play e5. So now I've got a secondary idea of being able to advance this pawn all the way, and then maybe even playing f5 and getting a passed pawn over here. And so I'm not limited to just pushing this pawn. Things are looking good. Oh, he moves his king back. This lets me get my king in. Excellent. Then he plays f4, which looks like a nothing move, just this random, pawn lash. And so I'm going to take it. And it looks like victory is pretty close. So the amount of time that I just spent talking about that last move is roughly the amount of time that I spent thinking about that move. So if you're looking at this position, you're white, what do? What was white's idea behind playing f4? What's the threat? I'm not going to belabor this point. You can pause it if you want. But after rook to d1, so the rook controls the d-file. This pawn controls this square. King controls these squares. All of a sudden, rook d3 is mate. And even though I have a super active king, a super active pawn, two very good rooks, I'm up material, there's actually nothing I can do to stop rook to d3 mate. And that's what happens in the game. And we can see the idea behind f4 is that, for example, right here, if you tried to play it, this gives me the e4 pawn could control the d square. And then you could like start winning pawns and then winning this, and it's just yeah. And so by playing f4, even here I could play e4, which is actually a great move. I get my pass pawn instantly and able to push it. Again, I could throw either rook behind it and just go, and it's things are great. But by playing f4, he basically provoked me to make the only mistake I could. Now, why did I make this mistake? Well, one, to be honest, I wasn't familiar with this type of pattern yet, of where an advanced king in a rook endgame could almost mate itself. I wasn't familiar with that, so part of this was a pattern I hadn't seen before. But beyond that, I made this mistake because I stopped asking myself, what is my opponent's threat? And you can see that because, for the last 15, 20, my opponent didn't have a threat. He didn't have anything. There are no threats. It's, he's just hanging on. He's just sitting there. And so we can see how easy it is to stop doing your regular thinking process, assume you're just winning, and then just make the obvious move, even though that loses. And so this is, overconfidence, hubris. It's the seed of so many defeats. And I couldn't believe it. And again, I'm sitting here thinking I'm about to beat someone rated 150 points higher than me. Right? He was almost rated 2,000. Not quite, but he was getting there, right? That may have been the first person over 2,000 I would have beaten. I'm not sure about that. But you can see, well, he wasn't over 2,000. But, right, you're thinking a lot about that instead of thinking, what is my opponent's threat? And when your opponent is rated, that high, it's usually for a reason. It's because they're able to set these tricks, these traps, right? They're able to play moves which force you to find the best move. And I didn't, and I lost. And it's precisely because I was overconfident. And you see this. You see this especially, in blitz games, where someone's up a heck of a lot, and then they start making the obvious moves, but they miss the threat because they don't take the few extra seconds it takes to actually say what is the threat. I want to say that I've never made this mistake again, but of course that's not true. I don't think I've ever fallen to this particular mating threat again, because believe me, this pattern is seared into my brain. I was in complete disbelief when I lost this game. But being aware, often it takes losing a game like this to realize what overconfidence can do to someone, but namely yourself, and then what not to do in the future. And it's been exceedingly rare where I've completely dismissed what my opponent's threats might be, even completely in like this winning positions. So I had to share this game because this is it's in the top 3 of my greatest losses for sure, where I took a completely winning position, a position that's been winning for multiple moves for pretty much the entire game, and then blowing it in one move. Wow. So I'm not going to belabor this anymore. You can laugh, you can sit there, right? It's, again, as long as you learn from your losses, it's fine. Well, it's going to make you a better player in the end, and that's kind of what we want. So I'm going to end it there. Unbelievable, this checkmating yourself. Anyway, so I'm not going to belabor this anymore. I hope you found that helpful, enjoyable. I hope you can see how using the whole game to set up this position, right? It wasn't just me missing a move. I missed a move because the rest of the game had set me up to be overconfident, so I would miss the move. Try not to let that happen in your own games. This is perhaps the worst feeling I've had in a chess game. Well, there's one that's actually worse than this, but I'll get to that. That'll be the very end of the series. But we'll have to wait for closer to the summer. So anyway, SmithyQ, SmithyQ.com. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care. Stay safe. Bye for now.